Hey guys, and welcome to today's video where I am back reacting and fixing your setups. You could tag me in your photos, you could use the hashtag #LeopardGeckoReacts, or you could email me them in. And we got so many that I've decided I'm going to feature some here, some that I don't have any tips, they look great. But also I intend on doing a second video at the end of December after Christmas, so if you don't see your setup here, it could be in the next one. Let's kick things off with some Instagram entries. So Kira Leo asks if there's anything she should change to improve this. I think you've done a great job. The only thing I would suggest is maybe adding something like slate or something under that heater. But other than that, it's great. Then Juan Miguel, this is a really impressive background that he built for his Gecko Cheeto. He built it himself and honestly I think it looks awesome. And by the way, if you want to check out some of the stuff I'm tagged in, go over to my Instagram, click that tag button, there are some awesome setups. The next one is Teofile, so he tagged me in this. I wish there was a better way of sharing these Instagram posts. Hopefully the screen recording isn't too bad, but this setup looks awesome. I do wonder how your leopard gecko gets on with a cactus with like prickles on, because the only cactus I've tried to grow is a Christmas cactus just because they aren't prickly, but this is awesome. Then this gargoyle gecko tank came in from Whirlwind, who 3 years ago told me there was a Steve Irwin figure in the tank, and she finally delivered the photo. Can you spot him? Amazing. Then Pyro Period said that they've been keeping their gecko in a 20-gallon tank with 2 hides and a heat mat. And they said about 2 months ago they came across a leopard gecko video and realised Pyro needed an upgrade. So they went ahead and got a 50-gallon tank, and look at it now. What a transformation. Good on you for spotting that you maybe needed to make a change and just going for it, and you've really done a great job. And finally for Instagram, David is going to be upgrading his Gecko Echo to a 4-foot Viperia tank. Affiliate link in the description below. But in the meantime, Echo lives in this 3-foot, really impressive tank. 3 lovely signs I see there, if I do say so myself. We did make them. They're from our Etsy shop. But anyway, really awesome stuff. We know Echo loves to cryptic bask over here. And I really love to see this custom made background. Well done. Okay, now let's talk about transformation. So this first one comes in from Maddie, and basically she rescued a Gecko Mac who originally was surrendered due to his shedding problems, and the problems became so bad that he had already lost toes and even an eye. So when Maddie took him on in 2020, she gave him this enclosure, and wow. Apparently despite losing his toes, he loves to dig. I also noticed there's a lot of climbing opportunities there, so I wonder how he gets on with that. Like, does he use that much? But I just know that even though Mac obviously had a tough time at the start of his life, it's just good to know that he's in a good place now and he lives in an awesome tank, so well done to Maddie. This next transformation comes in from Frankie, and what started off as an old dresser got turned into, by her husband, this super impressive setup. Now, she says that her main worry is there are these 3 points that are measuring humidity, and they read 55, 77, and 67% a lot of the time, and how do you get these lower? Now, I'm not sure if you've added the heater on yet, but generally if you use a heater, it will dry things up a bit, so one side should probably dry out a bit. I actually think it's fine to have an area that the humidity is slightly higher. Considering this tank's so big, if there is one area that's slightly humid, your gecko will be able to move away from it, but also it can seek it out when it's shedding, because if you notice, we have a lot of leopard geckos in captivity with shedding issues, and this is because in the wild they would burrow down or seek out more humid areas to shed in, so actually giving them that option is fine. And as I said, being that this tank is so big, they're able to move away from it as well, so they're not totally overwhelmed by humidity. The other thing I could suggest is more ventilation. That should help lower the humidity a bit, because what we don't want is if it's too humid and the air's kind of stagnant, that's when you're going to have issues. I'm not sure if you're able to add any more ventilation on top, but as I said, if the heater hasn't been turned on yet, it might make a difference once it's on, but overall, amazing. Camille asks when would be the best time to upgrade her crested gecko's tank. It's currently in a 12 by 12 by 18 inch tank. It's 11 months old and 27 grams. So I'd probably say it's overdue an upgrade. When I got my first crested gecko, I believe she was 18 grams and 6 months old, and I moved her straight into an 18 by 18 by 24 inch tank. So definitely ready for an upgrade, and if you want to, I would also recommend going 24 by 18 by 24, even better. Crested geckos love to climb around and explore. Obviously a gecko still has a bit of growing to do, but I think the extra space will help. Now let's talk heating and lighting. Now this first one, I'm going to butcher your name and I'm so sorry, but Razvan? I don't know if I said that right. Asks why their gecko never goes under the heater. It's very, very hot and I'm not sure how to fix this. So I think I know why. So it looks as though you're maybe using a 35-watt halogen. I'm just guessing, but it looks similar to what I use with Rex, my skink. Without a thermostat, I have measured that heating 40 plus degrees Celsius. And since I can't see a probe here, I'm thinking you're probably not using a thermostat. So it's best to use a dimming thermostat, and you can set it then to 30 to 32 degrees. A lot of people seem to get mixed up with thermostat and thermometer, two very different things. One reads the temperature, one controls it, and if you're using any kind of heat source with your reptiles, make sure you use both, but a thermostat is the one that will control the temperature. This next one comes from Ash, and he's actually recently installed the new Luminize Pro T5 in his gecko tank, so that's awesome. If you haven't seen my review on that yet, please check it out after this video. I've been using it with Diego, my leopard gecko, and Rex, my pink tongue skink. Now the tank looks good, but Ash asks, how do you ensure that the tank is warm in the winter but cool enough in the summer? So, I guess the biggest thing would be make sure there is a warm and a cool hide, so your gecko can always move to get more heat or cool down. In summer, I have this piece of slate in Diego's tank he likes to use, and it always stays quite cool. And I've seen him lay out on it in summer, but once again, his tank's quite big, and we do have an aircon unit in the room to keep the room cool. Another thing we can sometimes do is a USB fan that I put on the outside of the tank, facing down into like the mesh, and that increases airflow, but it also just cools down, make sure we still have a cool side of the tank. Once again, the tank is big enough that he can escape from this breeze if he wants to, but there's always an option. In terms of keeping them warm in winter, you can keep the deep heat projector on 24/7 because it doesn't emit visible light, and that can keep a little warm ambient temperature, especially at night when it gets super cold. Before we get on to the next category, I just wanted to give these two people a shout out for their amazing setups. This one I saw on Instagram. I didn't catch the name. I will leave the Instagram handle here, and I asked them to send me the video because Instagram didn't do it justice, but it is an amazing setup. And then we also received this awesome 5x2x2 foot enclosure with this absolutely epic custom built background. There are so many custom built backgrounds I'm seeing lately, which it's just awesome to see, and this is from Mariam, I believe, and she just hopes it inspires others. This is really cool. Now, we did have an African fat-tailed gecko setup come in. I believe this one comes from Tessa, and it's wonderful. It looks lovely in there, and it's for S'mores the gecko, but she's wondering how to get him to eat a bit of a variety. He only seems keen on crickets and not worms, and, you know, honestly, that's not a bad thing. I don't know a bunch about African fat-tailed geckos, but it looks like you're doing everything great. Heating, thermostat, UV, LED, plants. Hopefully the humidity is good too. I know they like a bit more humidity than leopard geckos. What I am wondering is if you took something like a mealworm or a calci worm and you kind of moved it like a cricket. I don't know if you've been offering these mealworms in a bowl, for example, but your gecko's used to chasing crickets. I know for my geckos, they will ignore a whole bowl of mealworms. Like, it's just nothing to them. So I always have to offer them like one at a time. So if you try offering S'mores the feeders, like moving them either with your hand or tweezers to make it look like a bit more enticing, like how a cricket moves a bit quicker, that could work and maybe he'll get a taste for it. But if you are just putting them in a bowl and he's ignoring them, that's kind of typical, at least for my leopard geckos. So I'm not sure if that's the same for African fat-tailed geckos, but that could be worth a shot. So I'm going to finish this react video here. We have some very awesome builds coming up, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss that one after Christmas. I hope these builds have inspired you. I hope my tips have helped. As I said, I will return with another react video, so you may be featured there. But anyway, thank you for watching, guys, and goodbye.